All right. Building the next web. Jared, thanks for jumping on. Excited to be able to talk about what you've been building. Bit of a background. What is it that you kind of do, and how have you come about doing it?
Sure. How far back do we want to go? I'll probably start with you and I meeting. So I had a Ruby on Rails dev shop at the time.
Yep.
We worked out of a cool little spot in Atlanta called the Goat Farm. And you and I worked together on several projects, you on the design side, me and my team on the technology side, and did that for a handful of years and moved back to Utah and joined up with you full-time here.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's good to, those goat farm days were really wild, and it's been fun to build with you. And I think some of the stuff that you've been able to put together and lead, Slater's, one of the big ones. I think we've got one of the highest sort of used apps that's in the marketplace, and it's pretty consistent. And we were very early with getting that out there. It was really before there was any notion of vibe coding. And in fact, at the time, I feel like it was a reaction to the visual logic layer that Webflow was building. And so you were the one that identified this and started to build it. What inspired Slater?
Yeah, at the time, we had 10 or so no-code developers. And back in those days, no-code developers really generally were no-code. Didn't have a lot of technical capabilities, so I found myself having to build or write JavaScript for the team. And the workflow in Webflow for writing JavaScript is just abysmal. So you copy in some code, you save it, you publish, you wait a minute, you go to your browser and you see if your code is working how you want it to. And the reality of JavaScript is like you're tweaking it often. And so that whole workflow just really destroyed productivity. So I just wanted a more developer-friendly environment for Webflow. And with Slater, AI was coming into fashion, like 3.5, I believe, is what we started with.
Yep.
And so that was a big help, but really it was just the reason I built it is just for that workflow improvement. And so it was like write JavaScript, save, refresh, and you could just get solutions out there much more quick with that workflow. And then, had we been even a little more visionary with the AI, we could have been a cursor or something like that. But we still have the AI capabilities in Slater, and the result of it was all this time that I was spending doing JavaScript work for for the no-code team. They kind of took over on it on their own once AI came around. And so having the Slater tool just really unlocked my ability to do other more important things than just like finishing off a project with some JavaScript.
And those were really miserable days too, because I think Slater came out of some of the work that we were doing with Letter Run. And Letter Run, it was very, it was Webflow based project, but very JavaScript focused. And, I think we had been embracing like this notion of doing both, right? That you can have a visual layer and you can have, a straight code layer. So I know that move to Slater and then being able to have one embed that we would put in there and have sort of one linkage to a project definitely sort of streamlined things. And that was, I think, probably the more complicated part of this was tag management. And then there is the AI portion of it. But, I feel like you spun up the AI portion fairly quickly. And then it was how to manage tags and scope and, all sorts of stuff, from there.
Yeah.
Well, and, we've talked as well about one of the next parts here is, and I think, warming back up the Slater community. And so if there's people that are out there, I think we see a big need of kind of jumping back in and engaging with people where they are, being able to continue that mission of kind of no code to knowing code, whether or not you're knowing code through AI or not, but it's still technical. what do you see as, now fast forward? We have other products. We're going to talk about Slater Search, which is basically trying to take something as complex as Algolia, and then simplifying that for marketing sites. But like, how are you thinking about development today? And I think everyone's curious around like, what is AI doing in everyone's workflow? And is it a magic wand? What does that mean for you?
Yeah. So we built Slater how many years ago? No.
Was it 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So I guess it was 20. It was at the end of 2022, and then really launched in 23. So yeah.
Yeah, so we really heavily worked on it for the first 2 years. And then it kind of did its job, generally speaking, and we've laid off a good bit. But you and I have been working on a separate product called WCH, which we're not going to really talk about, but it has required us to build additional tooling to support these websites that we're working with. And the most natural extension of Slater is really going to be doing more with your Webflow project and specifically getting access to the data. A good use case that we've identified is search. And so you've got all your CMS collection data, you've got all your page data, and you've got Webflow with a really kind of lackluster search. And so like what's the
primitive,
Yeah, primitive. So what are the opportunities we have to build something better, build something that's more in line with what the no code community can create without going so far as something very enterprisey like Algolia.
Yeah.
And so getting access to the data for search also unlocks a lot of other opportunities and use cases for combining Slater and writing custom code, and also building out these no code solutions for your Webflow projects.
Yeah, and I think no code has really just started to mean having a more inclusive and accessible environment for everyone to jump into. Yeah. And what we've seen with search and with teams working on that is like, okay, so let's say you go and get a Algolia implementation kind of linked up. Well, I mean, marketing is really the ones that are going to want to prioritize what is showing up, how things are working, and not having to go back to someone that's going to be more technical to add those weights. And so I think that's one of the things that we've definitely seen as a pain point with our customers. And
one other thing. So, no code developers are better than ever because they have AI, and the AI allows them to write really kind of custom experiences in JavaScript. But it's another level to create an app that allows you to get your data out of Webflow. And so Slater Search and the data APIs that we're creating will unlock the no-code developer and allow them to do a lot more with the Webflow data.
Awesome. Well, before we jump into that, I'd love to dig into the thesis, and we've talked about every product is going to have gaps, and those gaps are really where we start. What are the gaps that you're seeing just today? And, how talk more about that. Like, how have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, access to the data has been something that's been requested in Slater for a long time. So Webflow's always had a great API layer, but it really wasn't accessible, and there weren't the needs and the layer or the level of technical requirements just didn't really match up. But I think today in our AI world and with a tool like Slater Search, those two will align a lot better. And so no-code developers will be able to build much more interesting data-rich experiences with it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's maybe jump in and get a demo going. So I would say this is still fairly early, and Yeah, but and we're starting to open this up to a limited group. We've got a couple people that we're working with right now. I'd say that if there's anyone else that wants to be within this first consortium, is how I'd put it, then now's a great time to send us a note. Find us on LinkedIn. It's probably the best way to do it. And love to be able to see how we could help people, with this type of implementation. So talk me through here, Jared. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so currently today, Slater, search.slater.app is kind of its own application. We will be doing integration with the old Slater app as well. But if you sign in here, you're going to be able to connect with Webflow to connect to your site and start getting your data out. So these are some sites that we're working on. So I can click into one of these. Here's the search experience. Here's the data experience. I'm going to start with the data experience because this is what's driving search, is like what is all of the data that we have access to. And this is what the blog collection looks like. And I can exclude pages from the search in here. But if I click into the settings, I'm going to have all these endpoints available. And so if I copy this, this is just raw JSON, which for developers, like, great. This is exactly what we want to see. It's easy to work with, and just really common. For no-code developers, this might be a little bit more scary. But with AI, you'll be able to work with this no problem. At the same time, we do have a no-code implementation that we're building out. And so you could come in here and look at the documentation and build out these experiences just by using Data Slater attributes. And so this will give you all sorts of really common functionality that you need, like load more and doing filtered search and filters and different things like that. So
awesome. And talk with me about the JSON layer. So how, all right, so we just had over there, I could believe one of the extensions, you copied that. That was the copy to the direct JSON that's being created out of Slater Search?
Yeah, so this is an endpoint that you'll be able to use. You can do a JavaScript fetch on this, and then that becomes available. So if I look at some code here, so I'm going to move that out of the way. We have this API URL. So in this case, I believe this is a search endpoint. Anyway, not exactly sure what that one is, but like this API URL, it's going to be used somewhere down here. So we do a fetch, and then this data becomes available to us here in this data variable, and we render the results. And this is kind of a very common way of capturing data or getting data with JavaScript. And I didn't write this. I'm sure I prompted AI to write this. And the reason we got that broken URL is because we generate this URL here, which is the API URL plus this search endpoint. And then the query parameter is going to give us like whatever you're looking to search for. And so that will get our data back, and then we render those results. We can just look at that real quick. So here we actually are creating some HTML that we're then injecting into the page.
Amazing. And why not just use, just Webflow's straight search? What are you seeing there? I mean, I know we've talked about it. It's kind of, a basic implementation. What's the gap that, you're hearing from teams?
Yeah, this is not the best example because it's all in Japanese, but you're going to have a lot more flexibility with this. So let's go back into Slater Search and let's take a look at the search now. So what we just looked at in code was this piece, and then we just saw how if I add the search endpoint and the query parameter, this is going to return for the query download. It's returning, I guess, 100 results, and that's because we have a limit of 100. But what we're providing you here with Slater Search is just a lot more flexibility into the entire search experience and the quality of the search. And so some of the things that we've done already is allowing you to identify which collections are part of this. So here's your static pages, and these are the different collections. We're using these tags we don't want to be searching off of, and so we turn those off. And then we also have the ability to change the weights. And so in this example, locations, we don't want to have show up as highly as we do, say, like the pages. And so you can tinker with this to get just right how those results that you want. You can also add weights to different words. And so like more common words that you don't want showing up, like something like home or I don't know, locations in this case, these are down weighted. And so they're less likely to show up in your results or show up lower in the result set. But something like download or get started, we want to heavily weight so that anything with download on them show up more often in your search results. Some additional work that we've done with this is you can actually add some JavaScript to the embed code. So then you can completely customize it. So for example, we have these locations here. We only want a subset of the locations to show up in the results. And there's like a value of like link to, I don't know if we have this. Yeah, there's a value of like link to location or something like that. And we don't want anything with faults. And so you can write some JavaScript that allows you to say, show only or remove any of the locations that are faults from not having that link. And so, yeah, this will give you from a technical perspective, just a lot more control over what shows up. And then from a UI kind of user experience perspective, just a lot more control in how different things work. The last thing I would add is we do have kind of keyword results, which is going to show up immediately. And then we also have AI results. And so when you're syncing your data, we're creating an embedding, which allows you to do this AI semantic search. And so this is a cool new opportunity as well. Like the AI search is really good and can allow for a much more kind of human experience than a keyword search result will give you.
Yeah. And I think that people are starting to become accustomed to having, it's like you jump into Google and you're like, well, I was thinking about this thing and whatever. And it's like this long sentence as opposed to, doing keyword stacking of like keyword plus this keyword, which is kind of, it's more, ironically more robotic to do that the old way. And I think what you're describing is how to be able to layer on top of that, an AI mode for site search, which today there's different ways to do that. You can kind of like vibe code some ways to be able to do that. But what I think is different is probably how you can control that and then be able to manage what's being served up and when.
Yeah, totally. So this is the kind of no-code version of search. And so we have this API Slater embed script here. And then what I was talking about, being able to push like additional functionality. And what I was saying, like this is kind of a little bit more challenging to write. Like you may not understand exactly what this is saying. What we can do with AI search is you can natural language say, like don't show any blog posts that are older than from 2024 or something like that. so you can add a system prompt essentially, which will allow anybody to really customize the search in ways without knowing some JavaScript to handle that.
Amazing. And I know that, when we launched the EA site maybe 2 years ago, I guess it was 2 years ago, and we really leaned into taking, question answer first approach. Learned a lot from that. And maybe what I'd love to do is kind of switch gears and talk about, AEO. I know you have another product called AEO Press, and getting your perspective on just what you've been learning and kind of like how that's been coming together. And so, and then for anyone that's curious about getting into Slater Search and having, access to what we're doing here, I'd love to be able to get that going.
Cool. I haven't really planned any of this, but I actually renamed it to AnswerCloud very recently.
Cool.
And the thinking there is I talked with someone and they were their feeling was AEO is kind of scammy. And
yeah,
it's kind of like SEO early days where there were a lot of hacks and everything.
Yep.
But what we're doing with AnswerCloud is building an answer engine. And so in the past, you built a website, and the idea was the user is going to come to your website. They're going to kind of read through everything and find their answer. But with AI, like you're getting much more the conversation that you want to have with a website. So I can just say, like, what is AI visibility? And we were just talking about how we create an embedding in order to do the AI search. That kind of comes with everything we do in AnswerCloud. So really what it is, it's like a hosting layer that is optimized for AI visibility. And so when you create content, you're going to create an embedding. That embedding allows the AI to identify similar content. And so, for example, when I ask this question, what is AI visibility? It's going through my entire knowledge base. It's getting these 3 documents, and then it's answering this question based on these documents that are on my website. And so it does a great job of answering that question based on the data that's available to it. Beyond that, there's like the discussion of like llms.txt. And this is not necessarily used that much by AI yet, but this is automatically generated. If there are agents hitting your website, this is the kind of content that they want to get access to. And so not only is the llms.txt automatically generated, but all of the content for each page will have its own TXT version. And so it's really kind of it's taking your website and just putting an AI layer on top of it. And in the past, this has been kind of bolted on with the AI subdomain. And so you can have like your regular website, and then you can have your AI website with like a chat experience like we're seeing here. But more recently, I've really just worked on building this as is its own kind of let's see, what's a good example? We'll come into Slater, but so this is like the bolt-on example where you have Slater, which is hosted in Webflow, but we now have CMS collections, and you can kind of just vibe code your website. So you go into Cloud Code, you create your website, and you tell the Cloud Code to upload your website, and then it gets uploaded to S3 or to AWS, and then you're able to not only kind of get the content and the look and feel, the user experience right and built out with AI, but then you also get the added layer of the AI website. So that includes the chat experience that we talked about. That includes the pages that are in HTML and TXT formats, and then it also includes agent analytics. And so here we have AI bots showing up. We have other bots showing up. We have page views and we have chat answers. And so you can come in here, start understanding like what are the pages that are bringing AI chatbots to get answers. And so you can kind of click into any of these pages and, like, for example, choosing between Webflow native custom code and Slater for JavaScript integration. Like, I may want to create more content here around this subject because it is showing up more often. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in the homepage and the pricing. Training bots, these are going to be coming here kind of whenever they are doing a training run by these large LLMs. And then these are the referrals coming back from the LLMs. And so you can kind of see where you're getting traffic and where the traffic's going to.
Now, for AEO, you'd mentioned kind of like people are feeling like it's scammy. What do you think are the biggest scams that are out there?
I don't want to necessarily say they're scams, but
sort of maybe, how about
people,
false narratives?
Yeah, there's obviously, it's very easy to create content now, and so you have people that are just generating a ton of content, and so what you see there is, if you're on LinkedIn and in these circles at all, you're seeing these AI mountains where people generate a ton of content. Google picks up that content, it starts going up, and then at some point they realize, oh, you're just spamming the world, and then like everything gets downranked. Your SEO scores just tank, and then like, because you're not showing up on Google, you're also not showing up in the AIs. So that's definitely one of the big ones, is just relying too heavily on AI generated content. The other kind of common ones are writing your own listicles. So like, who's the best Webflow studios? And you're going to put yourself in there, and you're going to put like 5 others, and you're going to say like how you're better than all the other 5. And at least early on, the AIs weren't recognizing that you're kind of talking your own book. And so, I think that was very, very effective. It probably still is effective. This is a longer SEO problem, but paying to be on these listicles. So if a website has figured out how to rank highly in some keyword, and sell those keywords to companies that are interested, and they show up, I think that's been extremely effective and not great for the ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's something, one of the questions is like, well, are these going to get downranked, or is this going to become, sort of toxic? Just as you saw the content mountains kind of come up and go away. What do you see as first off, love the sort of new look and, everything. How did you go about building the homepage?
Yeah. So there's someone here at Edgar Allan who actually worked with me on some Figma designs.
Okay.
And honestly, like, I was sitting around waiting for some of our no-code developers to open up so that they had some time to work on it. But that just never came about. And so at some point, I just started vibe coding it. It's incredible. Like, vibe coding has become something that really works in the last 6 months. Like, I'd say kind of end of last year, the models got good enough where I stopped writing code by and large, and just started relying on the LLMs. And at some point, Claude Code came out with their designs, their design app. And I'm not exactly sure where that design app is, if it's just part of Claude Code or part of Claude. but it came out early on. Like they had very limited tokens available for you, but it was a hot thing for a week. And so during that week, I think that's when I got like a lot of this built out, and it was fairly easy. Kind of like it takes there is a learning curve to it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this, but
I was
the
trying to find some
designer
stuff.
worked on it. It looked great, and it was built out well, and so it was fairly easy to. It was a learning curve, but at some point it got fairly easy, and it was much easier than having to like learn Webflow in order to build this out. There's the challenge with AI kind of vibe coding is you become reliant on the AI, and it takes a lot of kind of mental pressure to step away from the AI and solve the problems yourselves. And the AI will not be able to solve every problem, and so you have to be able to say, okay, AI's done. I'm going to do my own thing. There's a few like this experience right here. It couldn't get right, and so I spent a good amount of time just like building out this kind of custom chat experience and having it follow you down the page, and kind of having it grow and shrink into place. Just required a little bit of my prior knowledge as opposed to just asking AI to do it. The problem you have with AI is like if you can one shot it, it's incredible and it works and it's beautiful. If it's not quite there and you keep prompting it, you're probably going down a wrong path. And maybe the best step is to just start over. But it is incredible, like how good it's gotten. I'm sure it's going to blow our minds even more as it gets better and better. But yeah, since the beginning of the year, AI really is able to solve problems that it couldn't before.
And I know that you'd said you could sort of one-shot it and get it up. What are you seeing in terms of management, or you're just kind of not there yet? I mean, I know it was like, hey, I got to get something up right now. How are you thinking about what a content management system needs to do and how that needs to operate moving forward?
Yeah. This is probably the biggest gap from working in something like Webflow versus vibe coding your solution. There's just a lot less order. I think the best way of thinking about the two is with Webflow. You can get in there, you can work with it, you can see everything about what's happening. With vibe coding, it's kind of like you're sending your directions to someone offshore, a developer offshore, and you ask for something, it comes back. It may be 100%, it may be 50%. Figuring out how to work with that AI, so it's returning what you expect is a real challenge. And not only that, but there's like less tooling around it. And so if it changes like this, if you want a change on your website, on your homepage, I should say, and then if you're not careful, it may have changed like your pricing page or something like that. And you just didn't recognize that. And you may not, if you're not kind of on top of it and viewing it, then those updates can happen and you just are unaware of it. There's definitely tooling around it that can help you. GitHub's probably the most obvious. But something like GitHub is much more of a developer type tool as opposed to something like Webflow that could be used by a larger audience of people.
And I mean, I tried to set up GitHub. It was a couple years ago, and I'm fairly technical. And it was just like you had to walk me through it, and it was like, well, go and do this. Now you need to do this, and like I feel like if it was something that I was working in all the time, that's one thing. But just sort of jumping in and out of it, it feels very foreign. And so I think that's where having some level of, as you said, sort of like guardrails or harness or whatever that needs to be, we'll definitely put a method to be able to update a uh, a hero, piece of text or something along those lines, and not have it necessarily just go rogue and be updating other stuff.
Yeah. I don't want to kind of derail this, but like, I think more and more there should be answer engines, and we should all be responsible for some piece of human knowledge that we're kind of managing and keeping up to date. And I was just playing around with that idea, and I built kind of this Utah quality water website, and it's still a work in progress for sure. It looks definitely kind of vibe codey. It definitely needs some additional polish, but this was kind of completely built in Cloud Code, I believe, maybe Codex. I kind of jumped between the two. They're both great, and it's not clear how one's better than the other. But you get used to one, and anyway, you just jump back and forth. More and more, it's because you have you run out of tokens, and so anyway. It's kind of a trick to understand which LLMs you should use, and the availability of tokens is becoming more and more a thing that we have to manage. But this, like when you're vibe coding it, it's just kind of giving you a website. And again, like you don't know exactly like how it's implementing it. In this case, like there is a AnswerCloud plugin that you can use. And that plugin will give the AI a bunch of requirements and instructions on how to build the website and like how to deploy it. But again, like there's just, you're in a chat environment, a chat experience, and it's hard to understand exactly what the AI is doing with your website.
Well, cool. So I'd love to be able to see your perspective on, what are the things that, you're looking out and kind of understanding for the next like 6 months, as it relates to, let's say, development. Like, how are you thinking about your process and tooling, and what's sort of the advice on what's real? Because you've talked a bit about, okay, for a marketing site, you can one shot it, and then you have to get into the JavaScript and sort of get that last 10%. And I feel like at somewhere you had maybe a LinkedIn post about the final 10%, or sort of living in the 10%.
Yeah.
What's your sort of expansion of thoughts on kind of moving from the 10%, or, what's the reality of building today?
Yeah. It's definitely like it's a weird time because the world's changing so quickly. I'm able to develop so much more today. But there's the downside and issues with starting X number of projects is like most of your effort now needs to be validating what the AI is creating. And so a lot of vibe coders who are out there, they get excited about what they're able to build. If it's an internal tool, then it's perfect because you can get to 80% and you're just using it yourself, and you don't need to worry about kind of the extra 10% that you have to spend all your time on. And so if you're building something for yourself, like now is just the best time for that. If you're building something for anyone else, it's a great time to be building, but there's, I think, two really big issues that you need to think about. One is making sure you get to the level of polish that you would expect out of a product. It is funny, like every product now seems to be much more buggy. Like even the big companies, like even the LLMs, especially the LLMs, like they're breaking all the time.
Oh yeah.
But I noticed that with like websites across the board. There's just less resilience, or there's more downtime, more issues that are popping up. So there's that piece. And then the other piece, which is maybe slightly more scary, is like these models are just getting better and better and better. And so like you may be building something and then you realize, oh, the models are just so much better that like these vibe coders are going to build their own solution. And so they don't need your solution.
Yeah.
And so the whole, you've got a lot of like uncertainty in the market of like, okay, will Salesforce be around because everybody's going to vibe code their own sales management tool, and I don't know,
CRM or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking with Nathan Hewing a few weeks ago about the idea of ephemeral software. And it's that exact same thing of like, hey, just as you would go and spin up a presentation or a spreadsheet or something along those lines, now you can go and spin up a full application. Now, maybe, a lot of people don't need a full Salesforce implementation, like, quite frankly, I run a lot of, our day-to-day businesses off of a spreadsheet. And now being able to get kind of a micro application, which I understand and know, and thinking about how, in the old days, like maybe last year, software used to be something that you would wrap your company around. Like you'd have to have enablement and training and like all these types of things. And now I think the shift is like you can have something that's very malleable to be able to wrap around your company. And that's definitely a big shift. I think the thing that I'm still looking for though, and I think where there is opportunity for, let's say it's SaaS or some, maybe it's service as a service or whatever, is kind of the best primitives. Just really good ingredients and things that I can trust and maybe hand off. And I'm curious if like that's something that you agree or believe in, or like how are you thinking about maybe your core ingredients?
Yeah. I've thought about like infrastructure for the web as being something that I'm very interested in. And that original Slater is definitely a piece of that. It's infrastructure for the Webflow world. With AnswerCloud, I'm trying to build infrastructure for your no code, your vibe coders. And I think where Slater Search is interesting is hopefully it's one of those primitives that you don't have to build like a full Webflow application in order to get access to the data. You can just point your AI and your application at some endpoints and be able to get that data out. And so hopefully it's a layer that's valuable on its own, that unlocks the productivity of a bunch of people. I think that's exciting. Kind of whenever you're building something, is like, how can your effort make all these other people's efforts just that much greater? The other thing I'd say is I saw a tweet yesterday of someone who was saying like their company vibe coded a ticket tracking tool, and everybody was so excited about it for a month, and then they realized like they were spending all this time managing this vibe code tool, and so then they were going back to linear, I believe. And you see these same conversations on LinkedIn all the time, where somebody moved away from from Webflow to build their website, then they realize, oh, vibe coding's got these set of problems that I'm not ready to work with. My joke response to the tweet yesterday was like, you just need to wait another month, because the models may get good enough that it is that much easier to manage. But I think there is a reality. There's a different set of problems that you're choosing when you're vibe coding your own thing, and so you just need to be aware of those trade-offs that you're adding to your project, and just understand which path you want to go on.
Well, and as we've seen, it's so complicated for people to even manage, let's say, a marketing site with an abstraction layer, with a CMS. And so now if you go and have something that's very fluid and unpredictable, like AI, then the possibilities of messing things up becomes even more amplified.
Yeah.
And, I do see people talking about like, oh, well, now I'm just I'm not even selling there's not even a CMS. It's just people talk to me and then I go and make updates. And it's like, well, congratulations. You just discovered the web from the year 2000, right? So that was called managed services, and everything was custom built. And then you had like your custom built, let's say, application or marketing site. And if you wanted to make an update, then you had to go and talk with someone, and then they would go and make the update. And then if you got upset with them, then you had to like go and find someone else and rebuild the whole thing, which gets to this idea of having really good primitives and then having a way to be able to sort of manage on top of them, because it almost feels like that middle layer is what is being the most like impacted right now. Like just as you were saying, like, oh, you can go in and create something really easy and ephemeral, and then the things that you're interested in are more of like the hard problems, like the infrastructure or the things that are going to be susceptible to security concerns and like all those types of things. And then everything else in the middle, it's like, well, it's a jump ball, like maybe it's something that you can build in vibe code and it's ephemeral and whatever, and maybe it's a business, maybe there's something in between there, managed services, who knows. So
I think everybody's a little bit unhappy with Webflow's moving up the stack to enterprise. But I think the reality of our world is the local restaurant does not need Webflow anymore. A vibe coded website is perfect because they have 20 pages.
Yep.
At most, they're updating a blog, and that kind of like low level complexity is really easy to handle with AI. But we're working with some really large companies, and they have teams of people who are all involved in the same thing. And that's where a tool like Webflow is really critical. And you cannot kind of have 12 different people talking to the AI about what they want, because it will become just a Frankenstein mess. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that, in fact, what I would say is really that one-shot vibe-coded site was a template anyway, or it should have been a template. And if you bought the template and tried to update it and manage it, and then those templates are so fragile where it's like you move one little block and the whole thing, falls apart. But that's also kind of where, I mean, again, it's sort of trading that for the vibe coded piece and project. So I think that it's almost more analogous to that than, where you're going in and doing really more change management and then enablement around a platform, and then maybe building on top of that in different ways that are going to meet, whatever that customer is trying to do around, integrations or deployment or whatever that is.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know. I don't see any questions that are coming up right now. Anything else you're sort of thinking about, Jared, or wanted to dig into?
No, yeah. No, I think it's an exciting time. We've got kids. I'm trying to get them involved as much as possible in building stuff, and again, there was a completely different environment that got created at the beginning of the year. And now everything is so much easier, which is a great time to be building, but it's easier for everybody. So the level of quality, the level of, idea, strategy, just becomes much more important. And so, I definitely recommend for everybody to really spend some time in it, recognize that you have to build your 80% tool with AI, but then stick with it enough to get to something that's really great, as opposed to something that's AI slop. But yeah, it's fun. It's a fun time to be building.
Well, I think it's good place to kind of pause for right now. And what I'd love to be able to do is have kind of a cycle of these conversations so that we can share what we're learning with Slater Search, how Slater starts to evolve, be able to get some different people that are using these products in different ways, to be able to get their feedback and maybe some live demos there. So Good to catch up though. And obviously, I'll see you on Slack in just a little bit and we'll go from there.
Cool. Good
Awesome.
chatting.
All right. Yeah, hang out for just a second while everything continues to upload.
Okay.
Awesome. See you, everyone.